You're watching Access San Francisco, cable channel 29, public access television for the city and county of San Francisco.
Hi, I'm Johnny Burrell. Welcome to the program. My guest today is Evelyn Polk, author of her new book, It's Hard Work, Being the Village That Raises a Child. It's a memoir, and she works with adopted children. And before we begin, I want to thank you for the interview, first of all. And it's a must-read. It's a beautiful book. I know how hard you have worked to make this happen, and I'm happy for you, and a lot of people are. And I know all the foster kids are, and even kids who are not foster. But I want to begin by letting people know what world-renowned motivational speaker, author, and television personality Les Brown said about your book. This book is a magnificent source of inspiration for young people who have experienced less than positive childhoods, not to let their circumstances define them. Know that they deserve to be loved and that destiny awaits them. Talk to us about the book. First of all, It's Hard Work. Where did that title come from? How did you choose that, and how did you choose this work?
Wow, that's a lot of questions wrapped up into one. First of all, the way I chose the title is because I'm known as the Heart Lady. I love hearts. My nonprofit organization is for a child's heart. And I realized that in my parenting experience, not only do I work with foster and adoptive youth, I myself was a single foster parent, and I also adopted one of the children that I fostered. And it was difficult and hard, but I believe to be successful in working with our young people, you have to come from a place in the heart and connect hearts and find out what's really at the seat of their emotions to understand some of the outlandish behavior.
I love the name. I think it's a great title, and I think it really does. Even the name speaks to the emotional component of not just foster children, but people, which is something we all need. We want to be loved, and we want to be acknowledged. So I think it's a great beginning. It's hard work being the village that raises a child. How many children have you helped to raise being a foster mother?
Well, living in my home, I've had 4, 2 girls and 2 boys, and actually I had the 2 boys at one time, the 2 girls at a different time, and that's lined out in the book.
And what made you decide to adopt children?
Well, as an only child, basically until I was almost in my adolescence, I was basically an only child, and it was lonely, and I always wanted a large family, and I tried to get my mother to adopt, and she wasn't having it. But somehow deep in my heart I knew that I would adopt, but at the time I assumed that I would adopt and have biological children, and it turns out I have no biological children, but I have many spread out around the world.
There are a lot of children who need to be adopted in this country. What is your experience with regard to how many are out there? How long does it take for most foster children to find a home? And how difficult is it?
Well, when you say difficult, I don't know if you're meaning for the caregiver or the worker or the child themselves.
There's work to be done all the way around.
Yes. However, I was an adoption social worker, but that's been over 15, maybe even 20 years ago now. Time is winding up, but, or not winding up, it's moving fastly. But according to the statistics, that throughout the United States, there are 500,000 children in the foster care system. And 80,000+ of those are in the state of California, where I reside.
80%?
Well, I said 80,000.
80,000.
So that's actually roughly 20 to 25%. Yes.
A lot of children.
A lot of children.
And what are some of the challenges with regard to adopting a foster child? Has that changed over the years? You said 15, 20 years ago you began as an adopted mother. And has those policies changed with regard to what you have to do to adopt a child?
You know, because I provide the post-placement services, I work with the families once the child is in the home, so I don't get involved as much with the agencies that actually place. The procedures, I think, are relatively the same, maybe a little bit more detailed. Actually, I requested an application about a year and a half ago to adopt a teenage girl. And even with my knowledge and my having sought out the information, I was somewhat put off by the response that I got from the social worker, basically telling me reasons that this child, who was actually 17 years of age and had been told that she was going to be 18 in a year, why would I want to displace her from her setting? Well, this is a child who was looking for, who wanted to be adopted. And I feel that that's what the system a lot of times does. They will sometimes make it more difficult for, I just feel like that there's not enough advocacy for the children to be placed. And to be honest, I feel that the system makes more money if the child stays in the system. And because you have now a lot of the therapeutic foster homes where the agencies get more money per child if the child has greater needs. And granted, a lot of our children these days do have more needs. However, it doesn't mean that those needs are being met. And I believe if you worked with an adoptive family as close as you're willing to work with a temporary family, the child would have a greater sense of permanence. Of course, the child is going to act out. So you have potential families that are afraid to bring this child, especially when we talk about older children. And when I say older, I mean school age or older. And people consider it a risk. And it is a risk, but it's not as great of a risk if you have the support. And that's what For a Child's Heart, my nonprofit organization, is all about. As an adoptive parent myself, I did not have as much support as I would like to have had. And it was difficult, and I think some of the outcome might have been somewhat different.
Talk to us about some of the needs of adopted children, children who need a foster home.
You mean the foster children who need an adoptive home?
Right. Talk to us about that.
Actually, it's not real simple because you have various issues. One, the child's legal status. A child has to either have been relinquished by the biological parents, whether it's the mother and the father, or the rights of the parental rights have been severed by the court system. And usually when a child has been in foster care, the intent of foster care is that the child will be reunited with the family. Well, when I was in the system, working with the system, the parent had 12 to 18 months to do so. After that, the case went into what's called permanency planning, where the child would either be placed for adoption, guardianship, or what they call long-term foster care. If you ask me, that makes no sense. There's no such thing. Long-term foster care is not permanent because the child will bounce around. My youngest child, who I planned to adopt and never got adopted, was in the system from the time he was 9 months of age.
How old was he when you got him?
He was 7 when he came to live with me. And
how many homes had he been in before?
I think 3 at that point. And
by the age of 7?
By the age of 7.
That's a lot.
Actually, that's mild considered. A lot of children that I've worked with on a professional level from a therapeutic standpoint have been in many more than that.
Boy.
But the sad part is that he came to me at 7. During the time that he was with me, some issues came up, and I don't want to give away the story of my book. However, I was never allowed to adopt him. That's the sad part. Even though he had issues, I was willing to work with him, but I did not get the support that I needed to continue. As a matter of fact, I felt like I was more discouraged.
You know, one of your biggest supporters, again, is Les Brown. He was an adopted child. He has a twin brother, and some of the experiences he had as a young child, has he shared any of those experiences with you? But part of the reason he is a huge fan of yours and a supporter is that he knows the importance of, and look what he became. So many young children foster and out are told what they can't become, and look what he became as a result of somebody caring. What's the most important thing you think a child needs when he or she is adopted that a family has to offer or should offer?
I think number one, consistency. And actually when you say Les Brown, I say he's one of my favorite adoptees.
he's one of my favorite personalities.
Yeah, but you know what drew me to him in watching him when he had his national television program.
He did a foreword for your book. I want to make that point real quick. Go ahead.
Yes, but when he was doing his television program, he always ended it saying, "This is Les Brown, Mamie Brown's baby boy." And the strength in that is that he was a problem child. And people tried to tell her, send that boy back to the welfare department, but she did not give up on him. She went through the thick and the thin with him, and he loved her. And he knew he was loved by her, and I think that's the difference. See, he didn't get bounced around. Had he gotten bounced around, he might have been another statistic out here, but he didn't. And so that, to me, is so crucial. And one of the things that I stated when I was watching him on television before I ever met him was, I want to be a Miss Mamie Brown. Basically, I wanted to be there for my boys through thick and thin, and that one day they would say, this is Miss Evelyn's baby boy. So that is my dream and my vision. My boys are grown now, still having some issues. However, I don't give up on them. And that's what our children need, is to know that there's someone who is not going to give up on them, no matter how.
It won't go away.
It won't go away.
And so many of them have had the experience of being shifted from one home to another.
Yes.
So the point you make about consistency is very, very important. And you know, consistency works for everybody.
Yes.
Adults,
Yes.
training animals, people, one of the first things you learn is that you have to be consistent. How long have you been with the organization in terms of doing the work with foster children and that being your focus?
Actually, I just realized my organization is almost 19 years old. It's like, wow. We started in 1991, and it basically started off as me wanting to do something to assist the families and the children who we were trying to pair up. I was working with the Black Adoption Fair, and I was thinking, you know, this looks so cute from the surface, and people see these sweet little children, then they get them in the house and they want to know, you know, where did Chucky come from? And then the children are being set up because they didn't ask to go into this home. They didn't ask to have the pain and the bruises that they've had from their emotional scars. And so both parties, the children and the adults, have no clue as to what's going on. All you hear is the parents say, I can't handle this. But I felt if they had a deeper understanding of what was going on with the child and had the support, that they could hang in there and that child would not have to have another change in placement. So that's what HEART started off as. That was before I was a licensed therapist. I'm trying to think. I was an adoptive parent at the time, but hadn't hit the real rocky roads. And I jokingly say, had I known then that I needed HEART as more than anybody else that I even serviced.
You know, your work crosses ethnic and racial lines also. You do work with children, children who need a home. What are your thoughts about the children who are being adopted in Haiti at this time? The world is aware of the struggle, the huge struggle that is going on with everything in Haiti. Give us some of your thoughts about adoption and the Haitian children.
Well, that's a real big issue, and it's also a controversial one. As a matter of fact, I recently did a teleconference call around that issue because people are looking, again, the same, much like the parents here in the United States, the potential parents, looking and say, oh, what a cute baby, what a cute child, and they want to take it, and him or her, and love them, not knowing what the emotional scars are, not knowing what the cultural issues are, not even some of the medical things and the physical things that may have happened to this child during the trauma of this earthquake. And I think it's a great analogy to look at. In Haiti, you can look at and see the physical devastation, and you can maybe see some of the physical wounds. It's clear. However, you don't know what emotional scars are taking place, just like much here in the United States. You don't know what emotional. The child might look healthy, but you don't know what's going on. So one of the things that I've basically stated about the issue in Haiti is for people to not just jump based on emotion, to really think about what your motive is and what your motivation is. What is your long-term commitment to this child when this child is having nightmares in the middle of the night, or when this child is acting out because it doesn't understand your culture, or when this child is grieving because he or she has lost his or her relatives. You can't just say, okay, this was then and this is now. You have a happy family, smile, and life is good. No, it takes time to heal. And so when we have to have a patience and go through that grieving process, that means the heart work, meaning that when that child cries, allowing that child to cry, that you will feel the pain also. It's not just they lived happily ever after.
Do you think adoptive children all over the world have similar experiences, or am I hearing you say that in Haiti right now, for example, some of those experiences are multiplied in terms of challenges that adoptive parents are going to face?
I think they...
You just got back from England about 2 months ago. You did some work over there with adoptive children. So you've been abroad. I think right now you're planning a trip to Haiti.
Yes.
But the point is, you have been abroad and familiar with adoptive children and agencies in other countries. But again, the question is, are the experiences similar with children and parents? Are the challenges?
Actually, I believe that pain is pain. What mother would want really to be separated from this child that she's given birth to, whether she is a drug addict or whether she's a teenager, feeling unprepared to do that. That's once.
Or a successful woman.
Yeah, for whatever reason, because there are various reasons that children are in need of an adoptive family. And remind me to come back to a point that I want to tell you about my son telling me that he wished he had never been adopted, and how the average adoptive parent would be offended by that. So, and it's about knowing where the child's heart is.
Okay.
But when in London, I did not meet any biological parents. I met some foster parents and some children, young adults now, who had grown up in the foster care system. Their story is the same. The whole issue of being separated from biological siblings, the issue of going from home to home, of hurting and no one understanding their pain.
Being bounced around, no consistency.
And not having their feelings validated. We're human. There are only so many experiences that we can have eternally as...
So that being bounced around, that inconsistency contributes to them not feeling acknowledged.
And not feeling acceptable. Not feeling wanted, feeling rejected, feeling that they have no place to call home, and that once they are beyond the age that the system will pay for their care, what do they do then? Either, what do I do?
How did you handle that question that your son posed, or a statement he made about wishing that he had not been adopted? First
of all, it wasn't about me. It wasn't that he wished I'd never come along, even though there are moments I'm sure that he probably did. I think we all have, even with our own biological parents. But I think for him saying he did not like the way his life had gone. And what I stated to him is, you know what? I wish you hadn't either. And what I meant by that was that I wish that the circumstances which led up to him needing to have to be adopted had never happened, that his biological mother had never died of a drug overdose, that his great-grandmother who raised him had not had a stroke and become disabled and unable to take care of him, that he had not had to go through a foster home where, one, he was the only African-American child in the home and it was a totally different culture, and then coming to me after living with 6 other kids and coming to live with me, who it was one-on-one, and Mama was on everything, and he couldn't get by with things. Who wants to be caught with everything? And just being frustrated. I can understand that.
In your book, you talk about humor. How do you use humor in a way to cultivate a good relationship with foster children, who so many haven't had a lot of laughter and humor? And certainly, we don't want this broadcast to seem as if most foster children haven't had good lives or had a good time or have humor in their life. But you're big on humor and you use humor, and in your book you talk about that. How important is that, and how do you use it to love a child?
Well, for one, we know that when you laugh, everything relaxes. There's even some type of biochemical process that takes place in our body that makes us receptive to whatever is being brought to us, whether it's information, knowledge, direction, instruction. But it also says that my heart is open. And so when I can laugh, we're not in a defensive mode. We're not in an offensive mode. We're in a mode, where ha ha ha, when you laugh, you open yourself
and
up.
We're open.
Right. And I believe that a child may subconsciously pick up on that, but at the same time, you're letting them know that I'm not too serious. I'm sincere, but I'm not overly serious. And that I like to make a child even laugh at themselves. Because when they, if they lie to you, and that's one of my big issues, being lied to. But if I can catch myself, take me out the picture, come from a place of heart, and look and say, and I'm supposed to believe that, huh? Inevitably, you're going to get a smirk on their face, saying, dang, she didn't even go for it, did she? And so it's like, okay, come on, let's be real. But I think humor, it's interesting because I always talk about working from the heart, and I usually make an acronym, H-E-A-R-T. And one of the words that I use in the H is humor, because you break the ice.
Sure you do.
And you bring a sense of openness, yes.
What do you want people to get from the book when they read the book? And we want everybody to read the book.
Yes.
It's about not just adoptive children, but wanting to succeed, not giving up, learning from those around you, getting out in the world and not feeling that because you came from one place that that's all that you are. What do you want people to go away with having read the book?
I think one of the things I will say, the book is broken into two parts. One is called Entering the Village. The second part is called Bringing the Village Home. The first part of the book is about my interactions with young people that I've met throughout the years, working with them in residential treatment facilities, day treatment facilities, individual counseling, and just mentoring. The second part is about the kids who I actually brought into my home. So I said there were those who were in my heart, but in the village, and those who came home with me. But the biggest thing that I want, for one, is perception. I want our society to view our young people as more than problems in troublemakers. I want them to see the heart of the young people. And the stories, some of the young people that I shared with in the first part of the book actually shared their experiences. Most of them are adults now in their 20s and 30s, and they shared what it was like being an adolescent with me intervening in their lives and what that was like. So I want people to hear their perspective and realize that there was something going on a deeper level than their behaviors.
In your epilogue, it's titled, It's Not Over Until We Win. Win what? What is the win?
Win is meaning that, one, they're still alive. That's a joke I make, that I don't kill them. We don't want to kill them at times. But that they've come to a place in adulthood where they realize that they have value, that they have worth, and that they also have something to contribute back to society.
And in Quotes for the Village, you have a lot of different quotes, some great quotes. Mahatma Gandhi, if we wish to create a lasting peace, we must begin with the children. Here's an unknown author. Feelings are real and legitimate. Children behave and misbehave for a reason, even if adults cannot figure it out.
Yes.
So I'm sure you went through that. Kids behaving in a way that you didn't understand. How did you get the children, or your child and other children, to talk to you when they're behaving in a way that they didn't understand? Sometimes they don't understand.
Exactly.
How do you get them to open up and talk to you?
Well, for one, I must say that my training, my psychological and clinical training helped me with that a lot. So by the time the kids came into my home, I knew, but I got to practice on the ones that came before. But if you'll read the section about Eric, where I talk about he was a 17-year-old kid, but there was a 7-year-old boy inside of him. And I got him to relate to the little 7-year-old. And he's, I think, maybe 37 now. And he still will call me and say, you know what, little 7-year-old Eric was acting up again. But to realize that that little 7-year-old boy was afraid, he was angry, he was hurt. And so to realize, I believe that we all have an inner child inside of us. When we can relate to what it felt like to be in that place, and you give words to how to describe that. And that's why we tell children, use your words,
Here's what a little boy who used to act up had to say about you. Les Brown, let's listen.
Thank you to Evelyn. Evelyn, first of all, I want to thank you because when I was a little boy and you were my babysitter, you took good care of me. You wouldn't let people jump on me and beat me up. So I want to thank you for your love and support. No, really, seriously. I want to thank you for being who you are. You remind me so much of my mother. You are a caring and giving person. There's a saying, judge a person not by what they do, but what they do that they don't have to do. You don't have to do what you do. And you do it from a place of love. It's been said that love and happiness are perfumes. You can't sprinkle on others without getting a few drops on yourself. And you've been sprinkling it everywhere. And you changing lives, and you've changed and touched my life and touched my heart. So thank you so much. I wish I could be there with you. God bless you. God bless the day that you were born. And may you have an incredible program. This has been Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy and Evelyn's pride and joy. Oh, behave, baby.
Where do you go from here, Evelyn, with your work?
I, at this point, feel like I have to go throughout the world.
You're an author. You are right now involved in getting a television associate producer, and I'm happy to be working with you. I'm excited.
Thank you.
I'm really excited.
I am too.
You do good work, and all the work that I've ever known you to do comes from your heart, and that's important. But where do you want to go from here?
Well, as I was saying, I want to go throughout the world. I actually have always had this feeling that why do we take care of the world when we haven't taken care of our own? But I've had a release in my spirit to say, you know, the children all over the world are ours. I want to go around the world and bring healing to the children in the world. But what I also want to do is take our young adults who grew up without families here, to take them, for one, to expose them to the world, to one, to help them to find their self-worth, and also to be able to contribute to those who have less than they do. To me, that's winning. And for the other children to have someone to look up and say, if you made it, I can make it too. So I want to go around the world. And I was planning a trip to Nigeria, but with the Haiti earthquake, I've decided to go there and start there. I want to open up orphanages, and I don't want to call them orphanages because orphans have a negative connotation.
Sure.
I want them to have homes. I want to build homes all around the world and have those young people to grow up and go. I just sponsored a child from Kenya, and I got to meet her, and I'm excited about that. So I want all of my children to know each other and know that they have family everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's hard work. Mm-hmm. There's hard work. Hard work can be hard work.
It is hard work. No, it can be. It is hard work.
It is hard work.
Yes.
And the village, real quick, what is the village? Is the village the world? Is it a home at a time? Is it, do you construct a village from one person?
A village is one person talking to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're stopping a child on the street to say, you look really cute today. That's the village responding to the heart of a child.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It has been said that our children are 40% of our population, but they're 100% of our future. Hi, my name is Les Brown. If you're working with young people today and helping them to begin to learn how to become an asset to our community rather than a liability, I encourage you to call an incredible resource. Her name is Evelyn Polk. Why? Because Evelyn will share with you how to begin to work from your heart to do the hard work of working with young people. It can be very, very challenging. She can teach you the strategies and techniques that you need that can work right now. Is it easy? No. That's why you've got to work from your heart. They call her the Heart Lady. Evelyn Polk, she's the one to do it for you. This is Les Brown. I highly recommend her.